Hi there, I'm John Tanner. I'm Editor-in-Chief for TelecomAsia. We're here on the sidelines of Broadband TV Connect Asia in Jakarta, and joining me now is Nigel Bruin. He's the Principal Consultant for Huawei Consulting. Nigel, thank you very much for joining us. Now, you've been here talking about Ultra-Broadband 2020. What exactly is that, and how do you define it?
Ultra-Broadband 2020 is what we're calling the new broadband. So it takes all the work that we've done to increase broadband speeds and reach of broadband networks, both fixed and mobile, and takes a look at the application side. So what we're saying is now we need to be much more aware of the services and the experience of those services and use that as a defining characteristic back onto the network. So Ultra-Broadband 2020 then is fast networks that are available everywhere, but with very high experience across all of these high capacity services. So high resolution video, Internet of Things, low latency, all the things that we're going to need in the next generation of services such as IoT.
So what exactly is driving the need for Ultra-Broadband 2020?
So if we look at 4K video, which is kind of the major tentpole application for high-speed services at the moment. So it's stressing a lot of networks. People are worried about how the network is going to perform. And they're currently having to re-engineer their networks for 4K. What we're saying is that kind of re-engineering to ensure an end-user quality, in this case it's very high bandwidth with low latency and low packet loss, is going to be a defining characteristic of what all networks are going to have to achieve, because as we move forward, we believe that 4K is just a stepping stone. It will be 8K, 16K virtual reality. Virtual reality has very high requirement, it has a very high frame rate to avoid nausea. So we're saying that if we look at a services based definition of where networks are going, let's use that high speed, low latency, low bit rate to define how the networks need to perform in the current era.
Now, obviously, we're talking about more than just connection speeds, because we're already seeing gigabit fixed broadband deployments in Asia. So Ultra-Broadband 2020, that's a different proposition, isn't it?
I'd like to say that for once in our lives, I think we have an excess of bandwidth. I think we're now ahead of the requirements. So clearly 1 gigabit for one person feels excessive. Well, there's a couple of things there. One, it's going into homes, which is shared across 20, 30 different devices. So it's a shared network. But secondly, finally, we have an opportunity with the networks to deliver the services without having to worry about how they're going to get to use it. So I feel like actually it's a broadband advantage that we should be taking advantage of in terms of innovating in new services and deploying those services, rather than worrying about is it too much or too little from a traditional bandwidth measuring point of view.
So what kind of business model innovations can Ultra-Broadband 2020 enable?
So in terms of business models, what's happening now is we're seeing a move away from consumer use of broadband. So we've had prosumer for a while, but we're going to be producing a lot more. We're uploading, uplink is very important. We are consuming into the cloud, we're sharing, the social engines and so on are all very important. So now in terms of business model, we're seeing much more of a parity between the network players and their big investments in cloud and the users, and able to then balance up the bandwidth. And that kind of innovation then gives you all sorts of very interactive, high-touch services.
So what is Huawei doing to make Ultra-Broadband 2020 a reality?
Well, Huawei is pleased to offer a wide range of technologies across all of the different media. So that's copper line on GFAS, coax we have, obviously fiber where it can be deployed, and into the wireless we have 4G, 4.5G. So we have a comprehensive set of services. What we can say though is we can maximize the resources that a telco has with our technologies, and that's really the opportunity that I would like to press, is that they understand now the new opportunities in the service layer and deploy the networks that can deliver them.